welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave OHara. As you can see, they're back. Craig and Stacy Schroeder with Fight with Flash Foundation. We're going to have a little bit more in-depth conversation with Jeff Horner in the next segment, former Hawkeye basketball playing great. We lost a couple of legendary Hawkeyes over the last weekend, so going to talk to Jeff Horner about that a little bit, but also then follow up with James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, talking some of the prospects of the Hawkeyes going into the NFL, and we got some Hawkeyes playing in the Super Bowl, so we got it all going on today. And of course, we're going to talk to David Eickholt, Hawkeye Insider, Caitlin Clark. I'll just say two words. I'll say two more words. Keegan Murray. So great stuff. And then, of course, Iowa wrestling. Two more words. So all that coming up this week on Hawkeyed with me, Dave OHara. But I got Craig and Stacy joining us here, coming fresh off the dance marathon stage. First of all, Craig and Stacy, thanks as always for joining us. But secondly, I know I get a little crazy with the numbers, but am I in the neighborhood? 1.3 million UI dance marathon raised last weekend?
You are correct, yes.
Are you tired? Did you dance a lot? Did you get after it?
The event is so amazing. Of course, unfortunately, we had to be virtual, but so we got to speak to the crowd virtually. So much more exciting, and the energy is obviously more there when we get to see them in person. But yes, they raised 1.3 million virtually, which is amazing. And this, of course, was a special year. This is year 22. And this would have been Austin's graduating year of college. So his best friend, Carter Johnson,
Crazy Legs, right?
Crazy Legs, CJ, yes. He, Maddie Barda, I mean, some of Austin's good friends were graduating this year. So this is a big year for their dance marathon. And yeah, we wish, again, it could have been in person, but they rocked it. They've done so much. They did outstanding fundraising, and it's just so special, and it means a lot to us. And
it really is. Just watching it from afar, I got to see some virtually as well, and so I know you guys were tearing up your rugs at home, dancing your legs off like crazy legs, but just the energy you mentioned right there was the highlight, just to see you two bringing in studio with us. And so, Craig, that doesn't just stop there, though, does it? You made the rounds on radio, on statewide radio, and you also have other dance marathons upcoming. So you two, to say the least, are very busy.
We are. It's an awesome. We get out through the end of the year, right? And we'd be able to give our day of giving and give the checks and spend a little time with the staff for lunch, and which is awesome. We turn the corner and boom, it's dance marathon season. So we've already spoke to a few of them. Regina High School, Kirkwood, on a pre-meeting, was on the radiothon for the UI dance marathon this last week. Also, Liberty High had a dance marathon meeting. Their event is not for another month or so, but they do want to try to pump some of the dancers up and basically get them to understand what a why is, why they do what they do, and not to give up and to keep fighting, and which means keep fundraising the whole entire time. But no, it's amazing. UIDM, and they did this with half of the amount of kids. Mm-hmm. They only had about 700 kids this year versus they normally have around 1,500 or so. And that means all the committee members and everything else was at half the number, and they raised that kind of money.
And that's the impressive thing. And so again, folks, why Craig and Stacy join us each week. The why, as Craig mentioned and Stacy's mentioned, again, Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org, because Jeff Horner and I are going to talk about a couple of Hawkeye greats that we lost, as I referenced earlier in this opening segment. One due to cancer, Skylar Moss, former Hawkeye baseball player, you two knew well, and father, and yes, and he played in the Fight with Flash golf tournament a couple years ago, and this insidious disease took him so quick, but 38, 39 years old. So we'll talk with Jeff Horner, played basketball at Iowa the same time Skylar was playing baseball at Iowa. And of course, Mac McCausland didn't die of cancer, but legendary broadcaster Mac McCausland, Hawkeye great, passed away at 75 of natural causes at his Vegas home this last weekend. So lost a couple of great Hawkeye greats, but again, why, as you talk about, Craig and Stacy, great stuff from you as always. We can't talk about it enough, but we want to bring people up because this excitement and energy you two bring and the money raised can only try to help fight this insidious disease. So thank you both very much as always.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave, so much.
Truly my pleasure. For Craig and Stacy Schroeder, Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. I'm Dave OHara with Hawkeye, back with more in just a few moments with Jeff Horner, former Hawkeye basketball playing great, and then James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback. We'll close the show out with David Eickholt, Hawkeye Insider. Back with more in a few moments.
To make the Mershman Seeds delivery experience even better this year, Mershman Seeds is offering you a brand new Apple app called Mershman Delivers. It will give you the estimated time of delivery down to the second. and updates you as our truck makes its way to your dealership. Mershman Delivers will provide you the answer to the number one question we get when it comes to delivery. When exactly will the Mershman truck be here? Available on the Apple App Store. Download Mershman Delivers today.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave OHara. As you can see, Jeff Horner joining us. Jeff, former Hawkeye basketball, playing great at or near any meaningful offensive statistical categories in Iowa men's basketball history. Jeff, kind enough to join us. And Jeff, I want to start off on a bit of a somber note. Initially, I referenced it earlier in the previous segment that we lost a couple of Hawkeye greats. One from cancer, Skylar Moss, former Hawkeye baseball player, played baseball during your time at Iowa when you were playing basketball. And then of natural causes and not cancer, Mac McCausland, legendary broadcaster, former Hawkeye player and parent, dad to Kent McCausland, a friend of this show. We've had Kent on a couple times in the last year and a half. So a couple of sad goodbyes to former Hawkeyes, and you knew them both pretty well. So first of all, let's start on that somber note to talk about Skylar Moss and then Mac McCausland, please.
Yeah, for sure. I knew Skylar when we were at Iowa. Like you said, we came in, we were the same grade, 2002 to 2006, and when he came in and I didn't really know him, but I had some classes with him. And then, you'd see him around town or you'd see him here, you'd see him at games, that type of thing. And, he was always hung out with him a few times, outside of sports, those things too, as well. And he just always struck me as a great dude that, was just always fun to be around, never was in a bad mood or anything like that. He always enjoyed life. And, obviously for me, hits pretty close to home because 10 years ago he's diagnosed with testicular cancer and beats it, and then 10 years later comes back and was battling it for 2 years, and I definitely stayed on top of what was happening with him, that type of stuff, more so on social media and those things. But just an absolute tragedy to you leave behind a family, kids, wife, and 37, 38 years old, one of those two, that's just, it's pretty close to home for sure.
For you, I can imagine. And before we get to Mac McCausland, I did want to talk with Skylar about Skylar to you, and to remind the listeners and viewers that you've been on my radio shows and TV shows in the past and shared your journey and victory over testicular cancer. So, this hits very close to home, besides being a guy in your same age range, but a guy that played ball at Iowa baseball while you were playing basketball, and then also having the same cancer you did and you getting a victory over it. You just never know, Jeff, and that's the sad thing, as you mentioned. So, and then we move into Mac McCausland. I'm sure you've got some positive memories growing up as you committed to Iowa early in your high school career out of Mason City, and that's back in Mac McCausland's broadcasting heydays when Iowa had the Iowa television network, and those guys were celebrities throughout the state. And Mac was an interesting character, and I had a chance to really get to know him in the last couple of years. And as I mentioned, I had his son Kent on this show a couple of times. Kent, a former sharpshooter with the Iowa Hawkeyes. But obviously your history with Mac McCausland, please talk about that if you would, please.
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, him and Larry Morgan, you'd hear him every Hawkeye game. You'd sit down in your living room and, they'd be the first people that you would hear talking about it. And, I've gotten to be, friends with Kent over the years, and just, when I came on, recruiting visits, or you'd see him at Hawkeye games, that type of thing. It's just something that, it hits close to home, because then, you'd see Mac at those games with Kent and everything. And so just, just a sad week for Hawkeyes. And, those two definitely exemplify what it means to be an Iowa Hawkeye, and, their legacy will live on long forever. That's for sure.
Well stated by you, and who would know better than you. So again, RIP to Skylar Moss at 38, and then also to Mac McCausland, 75, of natural causes in his Vegas area home. So tough weekend this past weekend for former Hawks and us Hawkeyes here. But Jeff, thanks for talking us through that. So now let's move on to a couple other things. Your team, your head men's basketball coach at Truman State University into year 4, and you guys are rocking and rolling again. Soon going to be back in the top 20. You got as high as number 2 earlier this season and had a few stumbles, but man, still getting right back after it at or near the top of the conference. You've had a couple big victories this last week. Let's briefly talk about your Bulldogs going into getting close. You got 6 regular season games left, and you're going to be rolling into the conference championship tourney and then rolling into nationals, hopefully. So you got a lot to play for coming up in the next 3-4 weeks, don't you, Jeff?
Yeah, for sure. I think since the last time we talked, we stumbled a few times. A couple games there where we were playing McKendree and Lindenwood, and so it was kind of, a little bit difficult, and we've kind of come back. I think, in our last 4 games, we've probably played 3 of our better games throughout the season, and I feel like we're making strides to get back to where we need to be. I think every year you kind of hit, a little bit of a slump in a sense, and you just kind of hope that you can win those games no matter how you do it. And unfortunately, we lost a couple, but like I said, we're back at it, made a few changes here and there, and I think that we can still make a run at this thing and figure it out. And, now it's going to be, all right, well, who's played enough games that have been canceled, postponed, how do you get them all made up in such a short amount of time? So it's just been a crazy year again, that's for sure. And our conference voted to move to a 15-team conference tournament. Usually it's only 8 teams, but they voted to do that. And the number 1 seed gets a first round bye, and then 2 through 15 will have to play. And then the 2 through 8 will have to host a first home game. And then the rest of the games will be at SIUE Edwardsville. So, it's been a interesting year to say the least. And like I said, I'm just glad that we're playing better than what we were. And like I said, we're just trying to improve each week.
And coming off that Elite 8 last year at Nationals, and check them out, fans, because TrumanBulldogs.com, because I joke with Jeff and call it Iowa South. He's got a lot of Iowa guys on that roster, and 8 of his top 10. So check that out. What a team, and they're really getting after it again. So, Jeff, thanks for that. But now I want to talk to you about 2 teams. Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeye women, before we get to Keegan Murray and the Hawkeye men. Otherworldly stuff. I mean, I talked about it last week with Caitlin Clark having 43 points against Ohio State at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And, Ohio State was ranked in the top 20. Iowa women are still 25 as we talk about right now. But that effort Caitlin Clark put out on Sunday with her team losing 98-90, but Caitlin with 46. But, Jeff, she had two three-pointers from 36 feet in mid-motion, without shooting from her knees or ankles, just a normal shot. You as a former sharpshooter, you coach men now. I don't care what level you're at. I don't care if it's men's or women's basketball. She is otherworldly right now, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think she's the type of player, too, where she's just trying to do whatever she can to help her team win. And when you get the hot hand, you got to, just keep on going. And I think that said that they only had 7 players available for that game, too. So I know she felt like she probably had to put her team on her back even more than what she has. But, they got a lot of good players, but, having some key players out, that's always tough to go into, a top 10 ranked team and beat them. But the things that she's doing right now at this point are just, unheard of. I saw someone kind of compare it to like a Jimmer Fredette, type player back in the day. So I thought that was pretty good. And, but she's, like I said, she's in another world. And the fact that, she wasn't getting a whole lot of love last year nationally is still beyond me, because I thought she was really good last year too. And she's been doing even greater things this year, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, well stated. 6 foot tall sophomore, only in the middle of her sophomore year, from the Des Moines area, and leading the nation, women's college basketball in scoring and in assists, and almost averaging a triple-double, 27 points, 8.5 or 8.4 rebounds, and about 8.6 assists a game. So, as you mentioned, otherworldly stuff. But let's get to the other Iowa basketball team, Iowa Hawkeye men's team. Big victory on Sunday against Minnesota. Had a game postponed due to weather against Ohio State. They'll make that up, and got some other big games upcoming. But your assessment right now for the Hawkeyes, sitting at 15-7 during the season, 5-6 right now, just 1 game over the 500. So 1 game over the halfway point of their Big Ten season. What are your thoughts on Keegan and the guys?
Yeah, obviously, Keegan Murray is a great player. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife in a sense. He's doing just a little bit of everything, whether it be, rebounding or block shots or scoring, whatever they need him to do, he's doing it. And, that's what each team, that they need someone to be able to do those types of things if you want to be successful. And, but I thought Iowa's defense in the second half against Minnesota, I think I tweeted about it too. I thought, Minnesota wasn't moving the ball that great, but still I thought Iowa was really getting after it defensively. And so that was awesome to see too as well, because, they're going to have to keep picking up the defensive effort and if they want to make a run, that type of thing too. But, obviously everyone knows the Big Ten is one of the best conferences in the country, if not the best conference in the country. And so I think what happens is, they have a good record, but it's not a great record. And so everyone seems to think, well, they're not, they can do better, this and that. But in the same sense, night in, night out, anyone can beat anyone. And I think all of us coaches understand those types of things because we play in a conference that is the exact same way. So I understand what they're going through, but every single night, you just got to be ready to get in there and keep playing. And I know those guys are ready to go.
Jeff, great stuff from you as always. Look forward to catching up with you next week. Thank you for your insights and your thoughts on Mac McCausland and Skylar Moss and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Hey, as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, February 8th, so all time references, viewers, I want you to bear that in mind. Big game tonight at the top of the Big Ten where Illinois visits Purdue. So we'll talk about that with you next week too. So not just with the Iowa Hawkeyes, a lot of other big games going on in the Big Ten. So Jeff, thanks so much. Look forward to catching up with you next week. He is Jeff Horner, former Iowa Hawkeye men's basketball playing great, now into year 4 as head coach at Truman State. Jeff, thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Dave. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. For Jeff Horner, I'm Dave OHara. We'll be back with more Hawkeyed with James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback. Back with more in a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave OHara. As you can see, James Vandenberg joining us. James, former Hawkeye quarterback. So, James, it's been a couple of weeks. I have been ready to roll with you for the longest time. So, welcome back. I got to hit it with you right away. Hawkeyes going into the NFL draft. You went through this process, and then we'll talk about Hawkeyes in the Super Bowl, a couple you know and played with very well. But what are the players going through right now as they're getting ready for the NFL draft? A lot of them are in Iowa City working out. What's happening with the former Hawks going into the NFL?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different components to that, but the one everybody's most familiar with is the combine and the testing. And I think one thing that all those guys are going through right now, I mean, obviously you're trying to get a little faster, a little stronger, but for the most part, it is what it is. And a lot of that stuff's really technique based. I mean, there are very specific ways to do the 3-cone drill, the 40, the shuttle. I mean, very specific ways that can shave off a tenth of a second, which makes all the difference in the world. So those guys are most likely just dialing in those exact techniques to make sure they test well. Can't change their film at this point. Some of those guys played in all-star games, but really it's a technique and then ultimately the interview process. And, a lot of it's out of their hands at this point.
Yeah, so exciting stuff. We'll keep the viewers updated on what's been happening. We had Parker Hesse on last week, and he's working out with a lot of these guys right now. Parker Hesse in the NFL, and then a lot of these guys like Tyler Linderbaum, Kyler Schott. He said, they've had plenty of questions for him. So I'm sure as they're all working out together, there's going to be a lot of questions and answers going back and forth. And what was your experience like? Tristan Wirfs is rumored to be back soon working out, so that'll be fun stuff. But James, I got to ask you, you played with Riley Reif and Mike Daniels, and they're both on the Bengals roster. They won't play on Sunday due to injuries or roster moves. And then, of course, with the Rams, Jake Gervais out of Davenport after your time there at Iowa. And then also Alaric Jackson with the Rams played earlier this year on the line and offensive line. And we talked about Parker to that with Parker Hesse, who knows both Alaric Jackson and Jake Gervais well. So we're talking to you this week, a couple of old-timers, you and Mike Daniels and Riley Reif. Give us your takeaway on the Bengals, how they look for the Super Bowl, but what are your recollections of Mike Daniels and Riley Reif when you played with them?
Oh, those two guys are both like super, super physical. Like you wouldn't want to run into either of those guys in a back alley. That's pretty well documented. When you play 10 years or whatever those guys have been in at those positions, like you're a bad dude, and those guys are definitely that. As far as the actual game, it's going to be tough for the Bengals to block the front of the Rams. And I think ultimately if it seems like Joe Burrow has time, I think we'll have a really good game. If it seems like Joe Burrow's running for his life, which I guess that's how I could see this maybe going bad for the Bengals, is just not being able to protect him against what is arguably the best front in football with the Rams.
So you got the Rams in a close one then?
I would take the Rams, yes.
James, the good news is no matter how the game turns out, Hawkeyes are going to be touching the Lombardi Trophy. Either Mike Daniels and Riley Reif with the Cincinnati Bengals or Jake Gervais and Alaric Jackson with the Rams. So exciting stuff. I love catching up with you with the recollections of the former players. And we're going to have your running mate and buddy James Morris join us next week and talk a little bit more detail about some of the Hawks going to the NFL and a guy from his high school, Tyler Linderbaum from Solon, and then playing at Iowa. And it was interesting to catch up with Parker Hesse last week talking about Tyler Linderbaum too. So we're going to have you back in a couple weeks after we have James Morris on and just kind of do a checkup of where we're at with all these guys. So James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, thanks again for joining us. Great to see you, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon, James.
Awesome. See you, Dave.
Thank you very much. For James Vandenberg, I'm Dave OHara with Hawkeye. We'll be back to close out the show with Hawkeye Insider David Eickholt in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave OHara. There he is. Been a while. Hawkeye Insider David Eickholt. Great to have him back. David, as usual, I'm going to get the heck out of Dodge, let you jump in and tell us what Billy Taylor had to say today. As you know, viewers, we record this on Tuesday afternoons. It's Tuesday, February 8th. Fire away.
So I will say this. So Billy Taylor is not going to be the head coach on Thursday against Maryland. Fran McCaffrey is going to return to the team on Wednesday for practice. We'll be on the flight after being diagnosed with COVID-19 back on Friday. But I think the most important takeaway, Dave, is what's Iowa going to do in the starting lineup? Yeah. We saw them shuffle it around a little bit. They moved Jordan Bohannon back to the 1, moved Tony Perkins to the 2, and then they had Joe Toussaint coming off the bench. Is that going to be permanent? I'm not sure, but it was a way for Iowa to say, hey, Jordan, we need three-point shooting. Because remember, Iowa's second to last in the Big Ten three-point shooting right now. They need Jordan to get going, and he's had a lot of success in the 1. So we'll see if that continues to be the case or if they have Joe Toussaint, who had a great game against Maryland last time out. But certainly some options I think that they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, Maryland on Thursday, and then Sunday we know Nebraska at Carver Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. And then we're still up in the air on scheduling. There's a possibility that the Michigan game might get shuffled next week to fit that Ohio State game in that was postponed due to weather. We're not going to get into all that because it's still kind of up in the air. Mm-hmm. But your thoughts on Billy, though, not just with the press conference today, but thought he did a very nice job with coaching with Fran not being able to coach. And, of course, Kirk Speraw and Sherman Dillard. Great job by the Hawk staff.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll take a quote from Patrick McCaffrey Day. It was certainly a lot quieter in the huddle than on a normal game day. So Patrick is joking with us about that. But I thought Billy did a great job. He tried to get some guys in the first half. And during that second half run, Dave, which is, I think, the impressive man-to-man defense I've seen all season. Iowa only allowed 12 points over the final 16-48. They changed up to have more ball pressure. Jordan Bohannon, Aaron Eulis. They didn't really shuffle around too much, and I think that they really rode, I think that top 5, top 6, and I think that really was the difference maker in that game.
Well stated. And you keep Keegan Murray out of trouble, then things tend to work just a little bit more nicely, don't they?
True.
David, in the next minute and a half at least, and we'd spend more time, you've done a great job for the last year and a half of championing Caitlin Clark, and Jeff Horner and I talked about her in a couple of segments earlier. I love hearing men's basketball players. Kevin Durant from the NBA, Robbie Hummel, Big Ten Network, former great basketball player in the Big Ten. Jeff Horner, big offensive star in the Big Ten back in his day.
Yeah.
36 footers, David, and she's not even blinking. Unreal.
No, it really is. And, I've called this shot. It's not going to surprise me if she pulls up from beyond half court at the end of the year. I mean, with the way teams
Why
are
not?
guarding her right
Yeah.
now, she was 8 for 8 to start off in that fourth quarter against Michigan. And, some people are like, why is the coach letting her shoot it? Well, it's clearly a good shot since she knocked it down. I think she's hands down the most exciting basketball player, men's or women's. I think she's a shoe-in for the National Player of the Year. I thought she should have got it last year. We've talked at length about that. But the crazy part is, Dave, Iowa fans in the country have 2 more years of watching her play college basketball.
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
It's insane. She's going to be, I think, one of the most statistically eye-popping players, men's or women's, in the history of college basketball.
And I love talking to guys like Jeff Horner, yourself, Robbie Hummel, that know men's basketball. And I don't care what gender, what level, that even if she was standing there by herself just shooting horse, 36 footers, David, and she's not shooting them from the waist, it's a normal shot for her.
I think that's a very important distinction, Dave. She's shooting the ball. It's not a hoist.
Yeah.
She's all form, it's all power, and it's natural. I mean, she pulled up with a step back 3 people in her face. I mean, what more can you ask?
Well, that's
of her,
what
really?
Hummel was saying. And Jeff Horner, they're like on the bounce or just catching it and shooting it. It's a normal shot. But great stuff from you as always. The time goes so quick. Look forward to talking to you again soon. He's the Hawkeye Insider David Eickholt. Thanks also, besides to David, but also to Jeff Horner and James Vandenberg, Craig and Stacy Schroeder, and to you, the viewers, for tuning in as always. David, thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll catch up soon. You're welcome and thank you. So for the aforementioned guests, I'm Dave OHara with Hawkeye. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.